Welcome to the Tenru Foundation's webinar series. This session's topic is building web pages. In this session, I will cover adding and editing pages, integrations with the events and facilities modules, and then we'll also go over some best practices for building your content. All right, in the previous webinar, I covered most of how to set up your website and how to configure your website's settings. Now I'm going to go through building pages to add content to your site and keep that up to date. So there are 6 types of pages you can add to your site. 7 if you count the home page, which has some unique functions. We have standard pages, calendar events, district pages, blog articles, event registration module pages, and facility reservation module pages. I'm going to go through each of these page types in this webinar, starting with a standard page. The standard page is great for going through the main features of the page editor. And then once we have those basics, we'll go through the other types of pages and look specifically at those features that are unique to the different page types. When we add a new standard page, we're going to get a new page box that has some initial features. The first thing we do is set a page title. Now, this page is a work in progress that I don't want publicly displayed yet. So I'm going to start by adding the word draft in all caps to the beginning of the title space. Draft keeps this page from showing up in search results, it keeps it off the calendar, and it will keep it from displaying in the featured carousel on the homepage. So you can continue making edits without the page being discovered on your website. You can send the direct link to this page to coworkers, team members, so that the two of you can collaborate on the page without it being discovered, but only those with the direct link will be able to view this content. And then once you're done working with the page, you can remove the word draft to publish your content. Now I'm going to add the working title of the page, which for today, I'm going to make set as sample. The next field is the page URL. What this does is it sets a direct URL to this page to make it easier to find. The URL will be easier to read and to use. This field is technically optional, but I highly recommend setting it on most pages on your website. You can add alphanumeric characters to this as well as dashes and underscores. Now, if you're using this page for an event that's going to happen year to year to year, like you're using an event page that is for summer camp, I would actually recommend against using like the year in the short URL and just saying it as, summer camp, so that your users can go to the same page to find registration buttons and content for your recurring event. So for example, in this one, this is my sample page. I am going to set my short URL to sample page. Below the line now, you can see a preview of how this is going to appear. You have the domain name, and then you have / and what you've set as your sample, as your page URL. So that's the link users will use to get to this page. So I'm going to click Create, and that adds this page to our system. Now that this page officially exists, we can take a look at it. From the 3-dot menu next to the Save button, I'm going to click Visit Page, and that's going to open this page up in a new tab. And right now we don't have anything on there other than our title, and you can see that it is Draft and then Sample. But I'm going to keep referring back to this page to view our content as we build our website. So I'm going back to the Tenru Registration tab, and this is where we now get to see our editor and all the options for building this page. Now, for the most part, the boxes here in the editor are going to be shown in more or less the same order on the live page. So as we're adding our content, you can see where each section shows up. In the editor, the very first card that we see is page settings. For our standard page, this includes the page title and the page URL that we just set, and then it also gives a section for menus. Now, I gave more detail on building menus in the website overview and initial build webinar, but this section gives you some additional limited control over menus. The site navigation section will show which menus this page is added to, if any, and it will give you a button to add to menu that lets you add this page to a site navigation menu at either level 1, where it's going to show up on the bar on the top of your website, or level 2, where it shows up in a drop down. So I'm going to close that. And then the other type of menu that we have where you're showing a menu on the page itself, that will show up here as well once that is set. There will be another section that says menu on page. And it'll show which menu is shown on this page, but this section doesn't allow any changes. You will need to go to the main menus section to adjust menus on pages settings there. Now, the other types of pages that we're going to look at today have some additional settings in this box, and I will highlight those later on. The next card is the top gallery for adding images to your page. There's also a bottom gallery, which has the same settings and features. The main difference between the two is the placement on the page. Top gallery will appear at the top of the page, while the bottom gallery images will appear later after some of the other sections. To add images to your page, you can do one of two things. You can either drag and drop images from a file folder on your computer, and those will populate this box. And you can also use the camera or one of the upload buttons to open a browser window on your computer where you can peruse your folders and choose an image to add to this page. Once you have some images uploaded, you can reorder the images by dragging and dropping, or you can use the three-dot menu to use move up or move down to change the order. That three-dot menu also has options to edit your image or delete it. So let's take a look at the edit screen. Edit opens a new box where you can add more information that will be used in some of the layouts, and I'll be showing which layouts use this information later on. So we can add a description. I'm going to make some very descriptive text here so we can see it later on. And then this is formatable just like your web page, which we'll look at that in a minute. Alt text is used as a title on the image. And then you can also add a hyperlink. When you add a hyperlink to an image, and I'm going to go grab us a hyperlink now, we'll use the one to our admin manual. When you add a hyperlink to an image in a gallery, then in most of our layouts, you can click that image and your user will be taken to your link. So when you're doing that, you want to also decide how that link opens. So this is another website besides the one I'm on, so I'm going to use New Window. And then you can also set publish and expiration dates on any image in your galleries. So this will automatically show or hide this image from the live page. So we can set publish dates for when it shows up and expire dates for when it goes away. And if your image isn't currently published, It will still show in your gallery box in the editor as an active image, but your users won't see it on the live page. And I'm going to move that to the front here for later use. Then if you were to delete an image, which you can do here or from within the editor, then that image will drop from being an active image in your box here, and it will also be removed from the live page. If you do delete images, you can turn on the Show Deleted toggle, and from the three-dot menu, you can restore that image to make it active again. All right, now that we have added some images, we get to decide how they appear on the page by setting our layout. The default layout is slider, which is a carousel at the top of the page that plays automatically through all the photos. So let's save that and take a look. All right, so here is our slider, and we can advance through those images or just let them play on their own. And you'll notice here as my carousel moves on that some of my photos are different heights. With the slider and some of our other layouts, it's important to crop your photos to the same dimensions before you upload them, so they appear at the same height on your page, and they're not going to make the rest of your content jump around. Now, when you're on your home page and you're using the slider, the recommended dimensions for these images are 1100 by 679. So they match the height of the 4 homepage boxes. I'm going to add that dimension into the chat now, so you can copy that out if you need it. 1100 by 679 dimensions for the homepage slider. Now, you don't have to use these dimensions on sliders on other pages. The important thing with that is that for one slider, all of the images you add to it are the same dimensions so that your content stays working and doesn't jump around on you. Now, with my sample page, I did set a link to one of these images. I think it was the first one in the, which one was it? When you add a link to an image, there it is. That will open up how you've decided it to open. It will take your users to that page. So you can use those images to connect your users with other content. All right, I'm going to close that and go back to the Tenere registration tab. Now I'm going to show you a trick that's very handy while you're editing your websites. So I added a brand new web page, and so it's always going to show at the top of my editor, or it's not always going to show at the top of the editor. It's going to show at the top of the page list while it's still a new page. But once I refresh my list, that is going to be alphabetically sorted with the rest of my pages. It's going to be a little harder to find. But if you were just in there editing, then you can use the back button in your browser to go right back to the editor and keep working. This trick will help save you so much time as you are editing pages because you can go and save, take a look, browser back, and keep working. You can also use, I'll save one more time, right-click anywhere on the page, and you should have a back option at the top of the right-click menu to go back into the editor. All right, let's look at another gallery layout. So we took a look at slider. Now let's look at inline. For this layout, I am going to start by showing an example. With this layout, all of my images are going to appear on the page one after another with their full dimensions. As you can see, for any images where there's a title and description, those will appear between the inline images. The title appears at the top or above the image, and the description will appear below it. Now let's look back at my working example. We'll save that and we'll see how that changes the images that I added. All right, so these are now full width with a slight amount of padding. And then we'll scroll down and here's the one where I added some content. We have the title above, description below, and the hyperlink that I added is both working on, you see how I've got the pointer finger here. It's going to click on the image as well as the title. Both are hyperlinked. All right, and we'll browser back and let's take a look at gallery grid. So with this layout, we're going to take all of those images that I added and they are going to be cropped to a set of square thumbnails. Um, and our software crops these to the most interesting part of the image. So that is how those thumbnails are generated. And then when you they will be organized in 4 columns and as many rows as necessary to show all the images. And then as you get into mobile view, the images will start to stack at different breakpoints to see them more compactly. Now, in this view, when you click on an image, it's actually going to open the image up full size in a carousel. It'll be a pop-up carousel that appears above the rest of your content. And then as you click through, it's going to show you each of the images on your page in this top gallery. Now, because of this pop-up carousel behavior where clicking advances to the next image, this is one of the few layouts where setting a link on an image does not work to bring them to the other content. So that's an important thing to note with the gallery grid layout is the hyperlinks don't work. All right, so now let's go back into my editor and try the next layout, which is full width slider. Now, this is something of a specialty layout since you need images that specifically look good both short and wide. I have another example for us there. Our recommended dimensions for this are 1500 pixels wide by 300 pixels tall. You can use a larger image, both more pixels all over or a taller image. And if you have an image that's not 1500 by 300 in the dimensions, it will appear, it will be automatically cropped to fit the page. Now, if you do draw or crop your images to exactly 1500 by 300, you can prevent any cropping on both desktop and mobile. However, this will make the images very short on mobile. So let's see. There's a narrower look where this one is 1500 by 300. It's just gotten really short now. If you want to use a graphic with text on it, pre-cropping is the way to go. Get it set to those dimensions from the start so you can see the text the whole time. If you do this, you should make the words used on that image large and clear and concise so that they still look good and can still be read on mobile devices. Anytime you're making changes to images, trying text on top of them, or just making content changes in general, we recommend previewing your work on both desktop and mobile to make sure they look good and everything is legible. Now with this layout, if you're okay with some cropping, like you're just using kind of a background sort of image to break up content, the height can be more than 300, like I said, which will give the system more room to crop and adjust the image for each device. The drawback is that you won't have control over how it crops, so it will show different parts of the images based on the device. So I'm going to go back to my sample page to look at it there. So in this example, I have images that, as we saw, are all sorts of different heights. When we're on a desktop view, it will crop vertically, keeping the top portion of the image. And so for some of these, that works better than for others. When we switch to a narrow mobile view, it doesn't crop unless the image is too tall. So users will see closer to square images where you'll get more of that image. Now, depending on the dimensions you use, the images will use more of the vertical space on mobile so they're not too short. But as you can see, there's some jumping around going on. Make sure you make the image ratios consistent for all images in your full width slider so it doesn't change height and jump around on mobile devices. Imagine trying to click a button that keeps moving when the gallery advances. You want to keep those image heights consistent, image ratios consistent for all of your devices. All right, so the next gallery layout in our list is full width inline. And on this one as well, I'm going to start with an example page. This layout is very graphics heavy. It sets the image at the full width of the page and adds no padding or white space in between images. This is great for marketing pages or some sort of a landing page where you want to focus more on the big picture feeling and less on text detail. Maybe you're directing them to content and you're not presenting the content on this page. The image you add provides a backdrop for the message that you're trying to convey and is faded somewhat so that the content on top is easier to see. There aren't specific dimensions for this layout as the images are all automatically cropped. The site will crop horizontally so the images don't get too short on mobile. So let's see that. Usually with this layout, text is added on top of the image. So the images need to be tall enough to show the text on every device, and that's how our system will crop it. All right, so I am going to switch back to my working example, and we'll see how those images that I added appear. All right, so when you add a description in the editor, it will appear on top of the image with whatever formatting you add to the text. So I think that was, I thought I moved that one to the beginning so it would be easier to find. Maybe I'm just missing it. Yeah, there it is. So this text is very faint. There it is. This is a description. So if I had made this a heading style or bold text or something like that, then it would show up a little bit better. But it's still a little bit hard to read. So you can use those built-in formatting options, like I showed, or as I'll show you more on this in the content box. But to get the look from my first example, you're going to need a little bit more code. And I'm going to talk about how to make content on top of gallery images look amazing when we get to the advanced page layout and galleries webinar. All right, so there is one more gallery to look at, and that is the first large layout. This layout is similar to the gallery grid, except the image that you set as first in order will appear with the inline image dimensions, and the remaining photos will appear in the gallery grid layout below. And as with the gallery grid layout, clicking on an image will open it in the pop-up slider. And any links that you set on images won't do anything. They won't take you to the page. All right, I'm going to go back into my editor for a moment and I'm going to switch our gallery grid or our gallery layout to gallery grid. And I'm doing that just because it takes the least amount of vertical space and then we can see the other content easier on our page. Okay, so the next section in our editor is the content card. If you are familiar with editing a Word document or other typical websites, this should look very familiar to you. This box is where you will add your text to display on the page. In this webinar, I will show the built-in formatting features to attractively display your content on your site. I will get into more advanced tools like buttons and tables in the Advanced Page Layout and Galleries webinar. So to begin with this, let's type some content to the page. All right. Now we can highlight the part that we want to format and use the buttons to change the format. So these buttons in the editor allow you to set most of your content with consistent styling to share your information with your users. So let's take this first sentence and style it with a header style. We're going to make this heading 2. And then let's take this second sentence and make it bold. And then the last one, I'm going to take one word from that and I am going to add a hyperlink. All right, so in this case, when we are adding hyperlinks, there are some best practices. So in this case, this link button up here kind of looks like a sideways chain link. So that's our link tool. And then when we are adding a link, if it's going to an external site like somebody else's website, the best thing to do is to add the full link. And this is called the absolute URL that goes directly to that specific page. And the best way to get to that is to copy the link from the browser address bar. So I'm going to go to this page. This is the annual health and medical record page at scouting.org. So I'm going to click once in the address bar to highlight everything. And I'm going to copy that and go back to my editor and paste that here. So that is going to take us directly to that page. If you were keeping the user on your own website, like taking them from this sample page to your summer camp page, you can use what's called a relative URL. An example of that, and I'll put my scouting.org link back in, but that short URL that we set when we were building this page, you can just do a / and then type the same link you had before. So taking them to my summer camp page is / summer-camp. And what happens here is the browser is going to look at that and automatically fill in the website domain for the website that you're on. So if this is still greatskycountry.com / summer-camp, it'll fill that in for you automatically. Now, why would you do this? This feels like a lot. The important time to do this is when your domain might change. So for new websites being added where it's still a work in progress, using the relative URL means that when your domain changes at launch, your links will all still work. All right, now I am going to go back to my scouting.org full URL. And this is on another website. So as I've mentioned before, it's best practice to open this in a new tab or window so your users don't lose your website. Now, when you're using the content editor to make this happen, here's what you do. In the link editor, you'll go to the Target tab. In this Target tab, you have a Target dropdown, and from this dropdown, you're going to select New Window or underscore blank. And that adds a little bit of code to things to tell the website to open this link in a new tab so they don't lose your website. So I'm going to click OK, and now my word link is a hyperlink. There's another kind of hyperlink that you can use to link to a specific spot on the page using what's called an anchor, but we're going to leave that for advanced users. There's a few things you need to set up for that. Some of the other formatting buttons of note are the paste from Word button. If you have written up your content in Microsoft Word or another similar software, you can copy that content and paste it into this box. And most of the formatting added by Word will be stripped out so you can use the website editor to format it and keep the styles consistent on your website. This helps a lot, but it isn't foolproof. And you may have difficulties formatting your content in the web page to get it to look good if it still has some word code hanging out. It's really better to copy your text from a text editor or to use paste in plain text from Word and format it from there. Let me see if I can get that up on my menu here. Yeah. Um, So now some of the other buttons that I want to highlight today are the Styles dropdown. The most commonly used style from this list is Special Container, which adds a gray box around your selected text. This button here, the Paragraph Format button, will let you change the format of your text. So you can have normal, which is a standard paragraph, like the text that's on our page already, or you can set the heading styles. Now, I also want to mention the source button, which switches to the HTML view for advanced editing options. I'll be showing how to use this in the advanced page layout and galleries webinar. I'm not going to go into this today. The rest of the buttons in this editor are pretty self-explanatory, but let us know if you have any questions about how or when to use them. All right, so now let's take a look at how this appears on the live page. All right, so here we have our heading style. This is a paragraph that is bold, and this is a link that's going to take us to the annual health and medical record in a new tab. So that is how to add content, customize it, and preview your work to make sure that it looks good. Now I'm going to throw out a best practice there for adding content to your page. Heading styles are made for starting off your content, highlighting the concept that you are presenting. This is our training program, this is our event, this is our whatever. Using a header style for the main body of your content can be considered shouting online, and we don't recommend using header styles extensively for the main body of your content. Stick with paragraph styles, or we have some advanced options to help highlight the text within your page for that. I will browser back to get into the editor again. And then after the content box is the bottom gallery. So we can click on that to expand the card. And as you see, this is the same as the top gallery. And this gallery appears below the content on your published page and has all the same features available as the top gallery. So for illustrative purposes, I will go ahead and add an image to our bottom gallery, and we'll leave that in slider view, and let's go and see where that is going to show up on our page. All right, so now here we have the space that would have the slider for the bottom gallery. All right, after the bottom gallery card is the social media card. This is where you can set social media accounts to show on just this page. These accounts can be specialized for this content. For example, if you have a different Facebook page for your summer camp that you want to highlight on the summer camp page. You can use the drop-down to select the type of account, which sets the root of the URL, so all you have to add is the account-specific information. For example, setting our Facebook account here, we would choose Facebook from the drop-down and then just enter Tentaroo in the field. The full URL is set on the button as facebook.com/Tentaroo. So here we go, facebook.com/Tentaroo. And this would take us to our specific Facebook page for our account. All right. So then after the social media section of the editor, the next is the contacts card. So we'll expand that. In the contacts card, you can add contacts from your master list to display on this page. These contacts are managed centrally and assigned to different pages, so if you need to make a change, such as updating contact information for someone, you only need to do it once and it will update wherever that contact is connected to a page. I covered how to manage contacts in the main contacts section in the website overview and initial settings webinar. In that webinar, I also talked about which fields are shown on the website for the different layout options. So for now, let's talk about adding the contacts to the page. So we'll click either the Add Contacts or the Manage button to launch the contact selection box. This is our master list of all the contacts in our system. And you can set the category at the top. So if you just want board members, you can look at just the board members. And you can use the magnifying glass in the blue bar at the top to search for a specific person. Now the pencil on the right of a contact is going to let you edit that contact from here. So I could go into this section to update contact information, change an image, any of that. And that is going to update the master contact card for this individual. If the contact that you want isn't in this list yet, you can use the plus symbol in the blue bar to actually open up a brand new contact card. So you can add someone to your contacts list while you're editing the page. So you don't have to jump back and forth if you need to add someone new. And once you've added that person, they'll be included in this list to select from. All right, and then you can check the boxes next to the people you want to include, or use the Select All button to choose everyone in that section. That'll be everyone who is currently listed on in this box based on your filters. And then when you save, all of those individuals will be added to your contacts section to show on your page. If there's someone that you need to remove from this list, you can use the X on the right to remove that contact from this page and they won't show anymore. All right, so let's click Save, and those contacts will be displayed on our website. All right, so there is my contacts list for this. And this is actually one of several layouts that you can choose from. The default layout for contacts is Sidebar. So that is going to show up on the right-hand side of my page, along with like the social media links and a few other things that we'll go over here. With this, if you click on the name, you can see that this is an active hyperlink, and that's going to open up a form where the user can reach out to the contact that they selected to ask a question, and that individual will receive an email from that goes through our system to get to that council contact. And then after that contact is received, they will be emailing directly. I'm accidentally closed the tab, so let's reopen that. Okay, now back in my contacts card, there are a couple of other layouts to choose from. So like I said, Sidebar is the default. This is actually a really popular option because it shows the contacts towards the top of the page, just off to the side, so that's not disrupting other content. Those contacts, by the way, are sorted alpha by last name, so that is how they will appear to your end users. The next layout option is grid. And the grid layout shows a table of contacts below some of your other content. And this will show the position of the person, their name, their telephone, and a button to launch that email form. This view is the only one that allows the user to sort the contacts differently. They can sort the table by position or by name to help them find the person that they want. Let's go back and choose the third layout option, which is photo. Now, as you see, some of these contacts have photos, pardon me, and some do not. So when we're using photo layout, what's going to happen on our page is we will have photos included for all of the contacts that have a photo uploaded. The name is the active hyperlink to get to the email form if there's an email address added. And then if you have contacts listed that do not have photos, you will also get a grid below your photo contacts with all of the contacts that you've added to that page, whether they have a photo or not. So everyone is still included, and your user can use the email form or collect the phone number to contact that individual. Now, some of our councils who want to use the photo layout want all of the contacts to be shown in the photo section and not to have the secondary grid. And what they might do on that is use a placeholder image like this one that they can add to a contact that doesn't have a photo of them. And then that still holds the place. They can be included in the photo layout, and their contact information can be accessed from that. All right. So that pretty much sums up the contacts card. After contacts, our next card is
Annika, sorry,
resources. Yes, go
sorry
ahead.
to interrupt.
Yes.
I just wanted to check to see if you had any examples that you wanted to show of contacts under your contacts group up there in your browser, or if you just decided to skip that. Just wanted to check in on that.
Okay, no, that's a great question. And yes, let's go take a look at that because I do have some pages that are more formatted for that I intended to show. All right, so as we were talking about that, we had the three layouts, slider, grid, and photo. So here's a page that has more contacts displayed where we have all that's on this is a list of contacts. So this is the sidebar. This is the grid. And here's our photo layout. And this photo layout is mainly different because everyone in this section has a photo. So there's no separate grid of contacts below. All right. Thank you, Moisha. All right. So the next card in our editor is resources. Similar to contacts, this draws from your master list of resources that you've uploaded in the main resources section. I also covered this in more depth in the website overview and initial settings webinar. But here I'm going to cover just how to connect the resources to pages and have them display. In this card, you'll click either the Add Resources or the Manage button to load the master list of resources, and you'll see a very similar layout to the contact selection box that we just saw. Here, you can select the specific category that you want from the drop down at the top, so you can filter for just the resources that you're looking for, or you can look at all categories. You can use the magnifying glass to search for a specific resource. If you don't have a resource uploaded for that yet, you can use the white plus icon to upload the resource right as you're doing this and make it accessible for adding to pages. If the resource is outdated and you need to update it, you can do that using the pencil icon to the right. And there you can do all of your editing of resources right here in the page editor. And then you can select all to select everything that's visible based on your filters. Deselect will unselect those. And you could also then check individual resources to add those to the page. So we'll click Save. And now the three resources that I selected are shown here in the resources box. And if you don't want one anymore, you can click the X to remove it. Once you've added some resources, you can save and preview how those are going to show on your page. So here we get a table that has the resources added. If the resource has a description, the full description will appear in this box, and then the download button will download that resource for the user to use. You can also sort this by both file name and by description. All right, back into our editor. After resources, the next card is the map. This works best with a shareable virtual map code such as Google Maps, and it will display an interactive map in the right-hand panel of your page. So to get the code that you'll need for this, we're going to go to Google Maps, and you'll search for the address that you want to add. So I'm going to add one here for the Summit Bechtel Reserve. So in Google Maps, there is this share button here, and that will bring up a box that has options to send a link or embed a map, and we want embed. So we're going to select that. And then we have, you can change the size of that here, or we can just, let's see, I'll make this one small, and then copy HTML. And that puts that on your clipboard. So now when we go back to our editor, we can go into the map box and paste the code that we just copied. Now I am going to save that and take a look, but there's actually one more little thing that we need to do before we sign off on that. So let's refresh our page. And now here is our map on the page. But I want to draw your attention to the end of this gray line here because it ends right about here and the map keeps going. Google Maps generates embed code that is a set pixel width and height. And the thing is that that is going to not look the best on different size screens because it's going to enforce the width regardless of the size screen you're on. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to make a small change to the map embed code that is going to make this image responsive so it fits the width of whatever screen it's on at the time. So let's go back to our Tenaroo registration and down to the map code. And then what we're looking for here is the height. So down here, kind of toward the bottom, we have not height, width. We're looking for the width. So here's our width, and it's set to 400 pixels. I want to make this adjust to the different size of screen. So instead of a set pixels, I'm going to make that 100%. And that magical little change is going to mean that it fits the space available to it, regardless of how narrow or wide that space is. So let's take a look. All right, now this matches up with that little gray line, and it's going to be responsive for any size screen. So as we go down to, there's one breakpoint where it's gotten narrower. As we keep going, it comes down to the bottom and is side by side with our social medias. And then as we keep going, it's now fitting to the bottom and it looks great on every size screen. It's a small change that makes a big impact on how that map looks on your published page. All right, now the next two cards in my editor are embed form and sidebar content. Um, these two cards I'm not going to cover these in today's webinar in depth. The embed form card lets you embed a form from our form builder on any page. And this will be covered in the form builder webinars. And then the second box is sidebar content, which allows you to add custom HTML to the sidebar of any page. And this will be covered in the advanced page layout and galleries webinar. And that leaves us with search engine metadata, also known as search engine optimization or SEO. SEO helps users find this content, both on your website and in search engines like Google. Setting a title here will change what is read on the page tab, so up here at the top. If you have a very long or unclear page title, you can change the title here in the search engine metadata box to make it easier to understand what the content is on the tab. So you can set a simpler, clearer name for your page tab. The description and keywords boxes, setting content in those can make it easier for search engines to know what this page is about. These page settings are available for more advanced SEO optimization. This was also under the main settings for the website. But for the most part, you can probably skip these for most of your pages. All right, now I am done going through all of my changes, and the next thing is to save any final edits that I've made. I have saved a lot throughout this editing session so I could preview my work on the live page. And while saving frequently is always a good plan so you don't lose your work, it's not actually necessary to save after changing each section. The key is saving before you leave the editor or when you need to check your work in the live page. But now that I'm done making my edits, I've got things where I want for this content, I'm going to make one last change. Back at the top, I am going to remove the word draft from my page title. I'm going to save one last time, and now my page can be found by users on the site if I added it to the calendar or anything else, if this were a calendar event page. All right, now that we have gone through the core elements of the page editor using a standard page, I'm going to go through each of the other page types to highlight the elements that are unique to each. The first different page type is actually the home page. Every full website will have exactly one of these, and it serves as the primary landing page for your website. A quality homepage with clear navigation is the best way to encourage engagement in your site and in your organization. Elements managed in the homepage editor include the top gallery. When you're on the homepage, you actually only have one gallery, so it's just the top gallery. And this is the only gallery to add pages to your content, so it appears at the beginning of the page to catch people's attention. This gallery is limited to 3 layouts. We have the slider, the full width slider, and the full width inline. When you're using the slider on the homepage, it is especially important that the images be cropped before adding them. And those dimensions again were 1100 by 679. When you have these cropped and fitting the same way, uh, then they fit nicely on the page, your content doesn't jump around, and your users can see the whole image. And a best practice with using a slider on the home page is to use 5 or 6 active photos in the sliders. You're not limited to that many. You can always add more, but if you add a whole lot of photos, your users aren't as likely to see photos that appear later in the slider. You can also hyperlink these images to pages on your website or to outside content, and you can use those publish and expire features for things like uploading your entire holiday calendar to the slider at one time, publish when you want them to show up and drop off, and then you only have to do that once a year instead of trying to get that done ahead of every holiday. Some of the content on this page, like the calendar section and the featured slider, will appear automatically based on other pages or settings on your site. And I will cover that more later on in this webinar. The remaining elements on the home page, especially items in the header and footer, are managed under website settings, and I covered those in the website overview and initial build webinar. Then we have a calendar event page. And this allows you to add events to your calendar that are not in the events module, such as holidays, fundraiser dates, district committee meetings, or events that use Form Builder for registration. And I covered more settings about which events are shown in which calendar views in the website's overview webinar. So let's add a calendar event. So with this one, we're going to have similar settings to the standard page. And so we can set things up the same way, and then we have a few things that are different. So the first thing is that we will set a location for these. And this is set from your master list of all of your locations. So we can pick Camp Tenerife for this. And then we have an event category that these are assigned to, which helps define which calendar on your website they appear on. If you select districts as your event category, you're going to get another drop-down option, and this is where you can set this to a specific district. You'll notice here on my event category drop-down that 2 of these categories are shown as hidden on site. That means that I have unchecked those 2 categories on this website, so any events assigned to those categories won't appear on the calendar on this website. Calendar event pages also have dates and times set. You can turn on all day event to make this just be an all day thing, like setting up a holiday. And if you turn off all day event, you can you'll have to set the start date and time, but then you can also send an end date and time, and all of that information will be displayed automatically on this page. Once saved, once this page has been added to our page listing, calendar events can also be featured to appear in the featured carousel on the homepage. And then these will appear automatically once they are added, and they will drop off the first, and they will automatically drop off after the first day of the event. Let me go back to that homepage and show that slider. So this is our featured slider, and this carousel displays the page title and a preview of the text on the page, as well as a thumbnail of the first image used in one of the galleries. If you don't have a gallery image, the carousel will display a gray fleur-de-lis image in its place. Let me see if I have one of those. Not yet. So let's save, and I will show you that. All right, so here's my test calendar event, and it's just showing the gray fleur-de-lis. All right. Your calendar event pages will appear in your page listing for all websites in your system, and each website's calendar will automatically include these events if those categories are shown, or if the selected category is shown. That said, the ability to edit these pages will depend on the admin's website's module permissions. As I mentioned in the website overview webinar, calendar events have the option to set which website is the owner. The owner defines which admins can edit this page based on their permissions. So if I have an administrator who is allowed to edit Camp Tentaroo, but not Great Sky Country, they would not be allowed to edit this page if Great Sky Country is the owner. Furthermore, if you have calendar events you want to show on one website and not on another, you can request additional event categories. So you can choose which categories are shown on each website. Maybe I have fundraising shown on the Camp Tenaroo website, but not Great Sky Country, so I could assign this to the fundraising category to only show on the one website. The categories and owners stuff was also shown in the website's overview webinar. All right, everything else on this calendar event page is the same, so I'm going to save and go back to adding another page. We're going to add a district page next. So here's an example first of a district page. District pages are designed to organize and share district information with units, like upcoming district events, as well as to grant limited admin access to your district team, who should only be able to manage district content. When you are adding a new district, or when you are adding a new district page, you will set which district it's associated with. So let's do that now. Let's add a district page. And this one is set to, we'll make this one a Bartram Trail district page. And I'll call this photos because I don't think I have one of those yet. All right, so now that we've set the district, we can create that page. And now this one will be shown as associated with all Bartram Trail content. And then besides setting which district it's associated with, these pages are identically set up to your standard pages. Now on our live website, we have a special box here that only shows up on the homepage or on district pages, and that is your calendar section. This is connected to our district for Five Rivers 1. So it is going to be automatically showing the next few events for this district in this box. So that comes up automatically. All right, so the next kind of page that we're going to talk about today is the blog article. So that's this one. Blog article pages are great for content you want to feature on the homepage, just like calendar events. So let's add a sample blog. And you'll see here that this has publish and expiration dates, just like we were talking about with those gallery images. So you can define when this starts to appear. When I click create on this, we now have a toggle to make this featured. So we can include this in that featured carousel on the home page, and when it appears and when it drops off is determined by your publish and expiration dates. If you don't set an expiration date, your blog article will show up in the featured carousel indefinitely. It won't drop off until you set an expiration, delete the page, or put it in draft mode. So that said, these dates, publish and expiration, they are not going to fully remove this content from your site. Once your page is added, anybody can navigate to that page and read what's on it. So the expiration dates don't prevent the content from being visible on the website if the user finds the page or has a link to it. To remove blog article content from your public site, you can set the page to draft mode so it's still active and you can see it on the admin side, but your users won't find it, or you can just delete the page. Setting a page to draft mode does remove it from the carousel. That applies to any of the pages that go into the featured carousel. All right, so let's save that page. And now let's talk about an event registration module page. So that's our next one. And this has a few additional options. So before we get into what's in the editor, let me go to an active event module page. These are a very special, very useful kind of page because they are going to connect to the events module automatically. So these do have several additional features to help connect your users with this event. And so let's go and take a look at those. So I'm going to give this a quick title and URL. And then the next thing is we want to tell it which event it is connecting to. So let's go down and make this a part of, let's just use adult training for this today. Okay, as we are adding a new event page, we can also determine whether this is going to be the primary event page. This means that when users find an event on your calendar, clicking on it will bring them to the primary event page for more information. If you don't have a primary event page set up, clicking on an event will take them to the login screen, and then once they log in, they'll go to the event in the events module to register. If you have multiple websites, you will need a primary event page for each website. And then if you want to simplify things to only maintain content on one of those pages, we can add URL redirects to your preferred page to filter all of your users into the one page that has the content you are maintaining about this event. The form to request these is on the admin manual under Tentaroo Managed Features. You can request as many URL redirects as you need to make sure your users are getting to your content. All right, so primary event page is a feature that can only be set up on one page per event type. So if you already have an event type page set as a primary, you'll get an error. You won't be able to do it on multiple pages. But you can still set up more than one event registration page for each event type. The next setting is registration buttons. Turning this on means your upcoming events will automatically be shown as buttons on the page, linking users directly to that event to register. These buttons show as placeholders with the event dates until registration opens, and then they turn into active buttons that say register today. Once registration closes, I can show that over here. Once registration closes, the buttons are disabled and revert to a placeholder with the date, and then they will drop off the page entirely a month after the event. Later on, when your next event in this event type occurs, you can update the basic content on this page and it will automatically show buttons for the next round of events. So you can use the same page from year to year. Your users can always find your content and you don't have to reinvent the wheel because your page already exists. The next feature on the new event page card is the Show Primary Contact from Event feature. And what this does is it automatically pulls the primary contact from the event type settings and it displays that person and their contact information on this page. This setting allows you to keep the primary contact current in multiple spots while only having to actually update it in one. You can always add additional contacts to this page in the usual way through the contacts card. So let's go ahead and click create and add that to our system. So this is now my primary event page because I didn't have another one for the adult training event type that's already connecting from the calendar. So when anybody clicks on one of those, it'll take them here. Now that this page exists, we have another featured toggle, so we can turn that on to show this on that featured carousel on the home page. And then these will drop off automatically after the first day of the event. Everything else on the event registration page is the same as a standard page. But one of the other cross integrations involves images in the galleries. In the user interface, each event type card automatically gets a colored tile with the initials of the event type displayed. To replace the colored tile with a pretty photo, you can add one or more images to either the top or the bottom gallery on your event registration page, and those images will automatically generate thumbnails in the tile in the UI. And then that will be, if you have more than one image, they will automatically randomly cycle through for your users so they continue seeing fresh and colorful pictures as they go in and decide which events to register for. Now, for councils that don't have a website with us, it's okay. You can still use this feature on your mini site to change the thumbnail in the UI. So for example, if you use the events module, but not the websites module, you can go to your mini site to add an event registration page, add images to a gallery, And those images will pull over to the UI to make your event type cards more attractive to your users. All right, now I'm going to talk about the last new page type, and that is the facility reservation module page. So these pages connect to a location in the facilities module to guide your users to into that module to book facilities. So otherwise, these pages are going to be just like a standard page. Let me get one added for us. We do have a show primary contact from facility location toggle. So just like with the event types, your primary location will be automatically displayed and updated along with the primary contact and the facilities module itself. So you don't have to maintain it in both spots. And then you can add all of the information you need to this page to let users know how the process for booking works, such as how to request permission to book for non-unit accounts that don't automatically get permission to book facilities. Facility pages will automatically show a button that says reserve. And when your users click on this, they will be asked to log in, and then it will take them straight to the assigned location from the button to start booking facilities. So the facilities page features that are unique to this type of page are the setting the location and turning on the primary contact. Otherwise, everything is the same as a standard page. Now, like with the events module, there is one more integration between the websites and the facilities module, and that is also a gallery image. If you add an image to one of the galleries in the website page for this facility, those images will automatically get used for the tile and the user interface when you are looking at the location. There's a little card there that will cycle through the images you have added to this page for your facilities location. And many site users that don't have a full website with us can also make use of this feature so they can make their user interface a little bit more attractive to users coming in to book your facilities. All right, so those are the 7 different types of pages that you can add to your website. So that brings me to the listing of all the pages on your website. So I'm going to use the app refresh button to sort everything alphabetically again. And now let's talk about how to use the page listing effectively. So this is actually a very important part of the website's module because there are lots of different ways to find pages. The main page listing is going to include all active pages on your site. That is, inactive calendar events and expired blog articles will not show by default. So we have some filters to help you find both active and inactive pages. First off, the most basic method to find a specific page is the search function. This will look at all active pages to find the content you are looking for, and it looks at both the page title and the short URL that you set. This is another good reason to set a short URL for each page that you build. So it's included in that search. And then we have the page type filter, which will show active pages of your selected page type. For each page type filter, there are additional options under the Advanced Filters button, which kind of looks like a funnel, so I'll turn that on here. And let's go through those for the page type filters. So when you're under All Pages, you will also see options under the Advanced Filters to include past calendar events, which will bring up calendar events that have been in the last 12 months. You can turn on include expired blog articles, which also has a 12-month lookup here. And then you can turn on show deleted. And this is available for each of the page type filters. If you have a deleted page, it can be restored. So it's more of a deactivating the page where all the content that you had on there is still there. You just need to restore it to look at it again. All right, when you switch the page type filters to blog articles, that has some other custom features. So this includes expired blog articles for all time. So this will look more than just 12 months in the past. This will look up for as far back as we've been adding pages. The calendar events filter will show the event category dropdown, so you can specify that I just want council level events. And if you use districts, it'll show you just those that are assigned to any of your districts. And then you also have a start date field. And this allows you to customize your search to going further back than 12 months. A common troubleshooting request we receive for calendar events is how to find an old calendar event in your page listing that was more than 12 months back. When the calendar event is from longer ago than 12 months, it won't show on that all pages view, even with include past calendar events turned on. So the way to find those is to go to the calendar events filter and then set the start date to before the date listed on the calendar event page. So here's my calendar event page and here's my date. So that lets me know how far back I would need to search. And once you have set that date, it will show all the pages from that long ago, and then you can use your search function to find something more specific. So let's go all categories, and that'll give me a much longer list. All right, now with any of these pages, let me go back to my main list here. You can click on a page card to open the editor. Whether you are in the page editor itself or in the page listing, you're going to have a three-dot menu, and that three-dot menu will give you additional options. From the page listing, you can use preview, which opens the page, the live version of the page in a new tab. You can copy the link, so you can share a link to somebody directly. You can edit, which also launches the editor, or delete the page. When you're in the page itself, that three-dot menu also gives you the option to duplicate the page, which will duplicate the page just how it is. You can't change the type of page when you duplicate, but if you are trying to make like copies of a district thing that each district is the same other than a few details, this is a quick way to make that happen without having to redo your work. All right. That was the building web pages content. This covers the tools available to build and maintain the different page types in a Tenaroo website, as well as features that help councils that don't have their full website with us, but want to use their mini site to add photos for events and facilities modules. If you have questions about using any of the features I showed you today, please send us an email to support@tentaroo.com or schedule a training at admin.tentaroo.com/training.